Change Lives for Good with your host, Greg Kepferle.
Hello, and welcome to Change Lives for Good. I'm your host, Greg Kepferle, CEO of Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County. Once a month, we gather to have a conversation with change makers in our community who are working to make Santa Clara Valley truly the Valley of Heart's Delight by helping their neighbors in need. One of the big issues of Santa Clara County is the issue of poverty. Over 200,000 of our neighbors are struggling to make ends meet. They need help with food, with a high cost of housing, access to education, access to quality health care, and access to the opportunity to earn enough to make ends meet. With us today is Almaz Negash, Managing Director of Step Up Silicon Valley, the campaign to cut poverty in Santa Clara County. We want to learn from Almaz what Step Up Silicon Valley is doing and how they're innovative and creating change in our valley. Welcome, Almaz. Glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Thank you. This is great.
So, Almaz, tell us, what is Step Up Silicon Valley and what do you hope to accomplish?
So, Step Up Silicon Valley is the movement to cut poverty in Santa Clara County. As you mentioned, there are about more than 200,000 people living on the margins, really on the margin. They don't have the means to make ends meet on a daily basis. And for a county, one of the richest regions in the world, it's absolutely unacceptable. So what we're trying to do is get the voice of the community, the partnership of the community, and their participation to make this a reality, to cut poverty in Santa Clara County. The way in which Step Up works is that we do have about 105 nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, and some businesses that are part of the members of the network. The network is not a membership organization. It's really a free will of organizations that are committed to cutting poverty in Santa Clara County. On a monthly basis, we have a meeting with about between 25 and 45 members of the network come and meet on a monthly basis to figure out what is it that we need to do to really cut poverty. And so it's almost, we don't build consensus, but we really come up with issues that people are struggling with, and we come up with solutions together.
So it seems like from what I understand in the work of Step Up, you've come up with 3 key strategies to address the issue of poverty, and about getting people aware of poverty and advocating for change and coming up with some ideas to really change the way services are delivered and the way we look at poverty. Can you tell us a little bit about those innovative strategies that you're using?
So yes, Step Up Silicon Valley has 3 specific strategic areas. So we do convening. And part of that convening is creating awareness about poverty, but also really bringing the community together to discuss these issues that are important to the community, their own neighborhood. The other one is advocacy. So sometimes you can talk about things to do for the community, but if the policies are not changed, systems don't change too. We advocate for policy change. Then the third one, which I think is what really brings all of this together, is the systems change incubation. We incubate innovative ideas that have the capacity to disrupt systems in which we are carrying them out right now and they don't work. So we really are about innovating ways in which people can actually have a meaningful life in this community.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about those innovative ideas, but the first step you mentioned was awareness. So here we live in one of the wealthiest counties in the country. We know we have at least 50 billionaires, hundreds of millionaires in this county, and yet we have over 200,000 people living in poverty. How do you make people aware of this reality of poverty? What do you do?
I think one of the greatest thing about Step Up, really, I have to say, is the poverty simulation. So the
poverty simulation.
We do poverty simulation. It's a tool that we use to really bring people to understand what poverty is. Remember, you mentioned we live in Silicon Valley, and so in Silicon Valley, poverty is invisible. Because people, when they think of poverty, they think that they have to live in a very bad house and they don't have to have the kind of food that they need to have. I think it's more than that. Poverty in Silicon Valley really is invisible. You can have a place to live, but you may not have enough to really make ends meet. So what we're trying to do is use the poverty simulation as a way to really bring people between 40 and 60 people in one room to really become poor for 2 hours, to understand what it means to live at $1,500, $1,600 per month for a family of 4. How do you make that happen in Silicon Valley? It's very difficult in Santa Clara County especially. So we really get people to experience poverty in real term, in real time, and we do this in a way that has not been done in this community before. I really think that our poverty simulation transforms people after they leave, and we hear that, oh, after I did this poverty simulation, I now know how people live. So really, we're not trying to do the poverty simulation for people to feel sorry for the poor, but rather to really have them understanding of what people go through and maybe become advocates for these people or champions for something that they care about. And I believe our Step Up Silicon Valley poverty simulation make this happen. I can give you examples of, for example, in 2011, we did one at Cisco Systems, where we brought actually executives from Cisco and other parts of the business community, the nonprofit, the faith-based organization. We all sat together on a Good Friday, I remember. It was a great day to do it. To really have them understand what it means to be poor. And out of that, I believe Cisco became highly engaged partner of Step Up Silicon Valley. And I can tell you a little bit more about what Cisco did to invest in Step Up Silicon Valley subsequent to the poverty simulation. So our poverty simulation is really a tool to make people understand what it means to be poor.
So once people understand what it means to be poor and their hearts are touched and they want to move to action, it sounds like the one big thing that you're working on is this systems change and this disruptive innovation. So you've got a couple of projects working on disruptive innovation right now. I'd be really interested in learning a little bit more about what is this innovation and how is that going to change the reality of poverty in our valley?
So I can really help you see how the Step Up 3 strategies really combine and work together seamlessly in so many ways. So you mentioned that after the poverty simulation, what do people do? People can actually advocate for change. So we've done that last year with the increased living wage in San Jose from 8 to 10. The people who participate in our poverty simulation, even the network itself, we pretty much rallied behind it, and it was really a successful outcome for Santa Clara County, for San Jose. And the other thing with the systems change is then we also advocated with Santa Clara County, for example, the last 1 year to own something that has not been done before, Pay for Success or Social Impact Bond. We got a funding on disruptive innovation from the Health Trust to try to see if the county is willing or ready to be disrupted. Because the Pay for Success is actually a disruptive way or a different way of funding social services. The funding that the county gives to certain social issues and the organizations, the way in which it has been done for many years, will be disrupted by just the sheer fact that one has to measure outcome versus output.
So to measure those outcomes versus outputs, this is a huge issue, I mean, not just for the county, but for nonprofits and for funders and donors. People want to know, what difference is it making? You know, I give money, you know, to help people get fed. I give money to help people get housing or education or job training. How do I know I'm making a difference? So how does this Pay for Success and the measurement of social impact financing help us in that?
So it is a process. It's long. It hasn't been tested, and I have to say we are the first county in the country to actually put money into this idea of Pay for Success. That tells me that the county itself is really ready to be disrupted, because it's not an easy proposition. But the way in which this is going to measure outcome is there is going to be an outcomes measurement for every single thing that these nonprofits do. So you get a certain amount of money. Let's say for us, for Santa Clara County, the Pay for Success, we hired consultants to come and really help us through the process. They figured out that actually through interviewing with the service providers and with other county government, the two areas they selected, chronic homelessness and mental health. And so these two areas would have to be funded upfront by a foundation or a financial, a social investor. The way that works is the social investor or the funder would absolutely require that this whoever is the organization doing the service have to show the outcome in order for them to be paid. Really, the word pay for success is actually measuring what you do versus what you're outputting. So it's not about how many people we got to house this evening, the homeless, but actually we house them, but we also we got them out of the street tonight, but we also got them a permanent housing, and they have a job, or they have a place where they can go. So there's a lot more things that you do to get one out of poverty rather than just giving them a bag of food or a bed for a night.
So it sounds like what you're doing is focusing on results and encouraging government systems as well as nonprofit systems to focus on those results, to have those organizations paid for those results, but making sure that you have philanthropic dollars and investor funding upfront to pay for those costs while you're waiting for those results to come in. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's actually what is great about this is now we're talking about really an integrated system. You've got now the government, the nonprofits, the foundations, and maybe hopefully the banks, whoever invests in this will work together because they all have the same outcome in mind, getting people out of poverty. That's really a very unusual thing for our community. We have never done it, so I'm proud for that, for the community to be able to do this together.
So just the fact that you put together not just the nonprofit provider community, but you've brought the government into play, you've brought the for-profit corporations, the faith community, and people in poverty themselves all working together to make this a better valley. That in itself is really innovative, and I want to learn a little bit more about that, which we will do in a few minutes as we come back with our conversation with Almaz Negash, Managing Director of Step Up Silicon Valley, who is doing some really innovative work here in Santa Clara County. Next, you'll find out a little bit about the 1,000 out of poverty. Thank you, Almaz.
Thank you.
Step Up Silicon Valley did a full poverty simulation at the Catholic Charities USA annual gathering in San Francisco. 60 people participated, giving each person an eye-opening experience as to what it's like to live in poverty, including losing their homes or not having housing, not having enough to eat, missing out on education opportunities, trying to find health care, and either losing all their money or not having enough money to make ends meet. Your business, group, or church can arrange to experience a poverty simulation by contacting Step Up.
Welcome back to Change Lives for Good. I'm your host, Greg Kepferle, CEO of Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, and with me is Almaz Negash, Managing Director of Step Up Silicon Valley. Almaz, we were talking about the social innovation work that Step Up Silicon Valley is doing with the community, and one piece of trying to find out what the results are of helping people move themselves out of poverty is your strategy called 1,000 Out of Poverty. How does that work, and who's involved with it, and how are you measuring people getting out of poverty? I'm curious. We want to know.
So the 1,000 Out of Poverty is another initiative of Step Up, and I have to acknowledge the Step Up network from the beginning. In 2008, 2007, a lot of people worked on this to make it happen. But I think the last 3 years, we recognized that we needed to really have an outcomes measurement. So for 2 years nonstop, we've worked over and over with many different thought leaders, practitioners, to come up to decide what kind of measurement tool that we need so that we can all at least have some tools to measure what we're doing, because how do we know we're cutting poverty? That was the really key driving force for Step Up. And so we came up with an outcomes measurement, but that's not enough. To measure what you do, you also have to have organizations that are willing to be measured. And luckily, the team worked together. We have Outcomes Leadership Council, which brings from the federal to the city to the county. We have Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, Supervisor David Cortese on the team, and others from the business community and the nonprofits. We've been working for almost a year and a half to really figure out how are we going to get people out of poverty. And the council really chose, let's focus on 1,000. 1,000 really is the first part of what we're going to do going forward, but this 1,000 out of poverty is actually run by 17 organizations, and I have to say my organization, Catholic Charities, has committed to 200 people. So each one of these 17 organizations have committed from 10 to 200, we being 200 Catholic Charities. The idea is, how do we work together and how do we use the same outcomes measurement tool to really know that we're actually getting people out of poverty. This 17 organization, they meet every month. They are highly committed. They don't have to be reminded. This is important. They actually self-selected. They were willing to be a part of it. I don't have to work much. It's really self-led in so many ways, but Step Up really is through Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, which is the backbone of Step Up. We really are organizing people to be together, to work, to understand what the challenges and the opportunities are. Every month we meet, every month we figure out there is a problem, and then how do we solve the problem? And then we're actually, you can see partnerships are happening within these 17 organizations. They are leveraging resources. So we are really committed and to see this happen, but there are still some works to be done. But we do have a tool, and that tool, the 5 dimensions that we look at is we measure outcomes on healthcare, education, income, food, and housing. These are key 5 areas that people suffer. And if you lose one, we know that people really are at a very, very drastic, challenging moment for them. So how do we really work together to get them at a level where they are self-sufficient?
So each of these organizations are using the exact same measure with a cohort of clients, 1,000 people, to see if they have enough food, they have access to safe, affordable housing, they have access to quality, affordable health care, they get the education they need, and they have enough income to make ends meet.
Exactly.
And then by measuring all of those together, they can see what's working, but it also seems like you'd also find out what's not working, right? Isn't that a little bit scary for the nonprofits doing this?
I know, and that's the great aspect of this. It's really not finding the solution, but on your way to find the solution, what are the barriers? What are the challenges? And this group is absolutely determined to do it, and I'm not saying it's always smooth. We've got up and down, and we really are trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. But the fact that we have 17 organizations committed to this is incredible by itself, because 17, remember, all organizations are in so many ways for themselves, but this group is saying we're going to work together to make something happen. The other thing good about this 17 organizations working together, it's a collective impact. It is not just one person trying to figure, or one organization to help people out of poverty. They are saying we will keep each other accountable, which they do. I have seen that already in meetings. It's the most energizing meeting. And probably for me, the 1,000 out of poverty meeting on a monthly basis gives sense to what I do and what we really are about, because you see them working it through and figuring out for solution. We are seeing some work being done, but we really, I'm not saying we have reached to the answer. We're trying to search for the answer, what works, what doesn't work. But the 1,000 out of poverty, using this measurement, is going to help us create the foundation for what we're going to do in the future.
So with this measurement, my understanding is you're also using a different measure than the federal poverty measure, right? That the federal poverty measure says, well, a basket of food times 3, from the 1950s. If you make more than that cost, then you're out of poverty. But we see the reality here in Santa Clara County that's not a true measure of poverty. So what are you doing around finding a new poverty measure?
So let me give you the gap between what the federal poverty line is for a family of four and what it is for Santa Clara County or California and what we're trying to do. So for a family of four, according to the federal poverty line, family of four that makes $22,400 per month is at a poverty level. Well, in Santa Clara County, how do you live at $22,400? Your rent already is high enough, so the cost of living makes it very difficult. The California self-sufficiency, the Santa Clara County, forget the California, the Santa Clara County self-sufficiency level, to really have a self-sufficient level income for a family of four, you have to make $87,000. This was the Insight Center report that came out a couple of years ago. The gap between $22,000 and $87,000 is huge. And so for Step Up, what we've decided to do was, okay, there's got to be another way to figure this out. So we've decided to use the supplemental poverty measure, which is another way of measuring where people are by adding to the $22,400, for example, for a family of four, what subsidies are they getting to get them at a level that it is sustainable. So we're using that, and that brings them to about $40,000 per year for a family of four. It's more attainable. It's not enough, but at least it's enough for Step Up Silicon Valley. The network chose to use that. So we really are looking at the SPM level.
So it's more realistic for a high-cost county and more practical. So, I mean, with all of this innovation, with the poverty simulations, with the social impact financing and pay for success, with 1,000 out of poverty using a common measure, Step Up Silicon Valley is just doing amazing work creating change in the community. I want to ask you, so what led you to this? What gives you the passion and the drive to work to fight poverty right here in Santa Clara County? How did that come about?
Well, first of all, I have to give it back to you. You hired me, and I was absolutely amazed by your vision. And I think it's always about the vision. The process can work, but what is the vision? So I always look at the big picture. And I think for me, Step Up pretty much ties up everything I've done throughout my career and my life too. You know, I come from one of the poorest countries in the world, Eritrea. I have always been amazed by the economic injustice and the way in which I was raised and others didn't have enough. I always ask this question, how is it possible that in the same neighborhood there are some with income and some didn't have it? But didn't really come clear to me until I went to USF. I am a product of the Jesuits. I came here as a foreign student and I studied at USF. So the social justice mission of the Catholic social teaching is a big deal for me, and it's really an innate aspect of who I am. I do have a business degree and I've done business for a long time, but this calls home to me. And so for me, working at Catholic Charities, Santa Clara County, which I know what happens in that organization is incredible. We are innovating. We really are trying truly to change lives for good. And Step Up is just one aspect of it. But Step Up is also an external arm of Catholic Charities. The way I see it is we really bring the community together. But as a backbone organization, Catholic Charities it carries heavy weight on what's happening in our community. So I take that responsibility very seriously, and it's an opportunity. So it's a great opportunity to do what I do.
That's wonderful, Almaz. I'm curious, what are you most proud of with the Step Up Silicon Valley network?
You know, I'm very proud of the people that are in the network. Can you imagine asking them to come every month to meetings for the last 3 years? Non-stop, I have asked them, and over they came. They didn't just come, they actually acted on it. So I'm extremely proud of the people. I'm also proud of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do really is changing the way in which business has been done before in terms of lifting people out of poverty. The idea that you help people never made sense to me. I think people help themselves. What we're trying to do is we're giving the power back to the community, to those in need, and providing them the tools they need so they can get out of poverty. That's a very different discussion than thinking, oh, there's a charitable organization that's going to give you food. No, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is, yes, there is food, but also you can get a job, you can get this, you can get an education. So Step Up makes that happen. And I'm also very proud to work at Catholic Charities, Santa Clara County, because I think that this initiative, which you founded Step Up Silicon Valley, so I know you are extremely proud, and I'm very proud to work with you because I think the vision has to be carried, and it's going to be a long term. It's going to take a lot of work, but we have corporate support, nonprofit support, the businesses, small and medium, the faith-based organizations, the community itself. It's a great gift. We just have to figure out a way to sustain it. So it's a privilege.
Well, thank you, Almaz. One of the things that I feel really proud of also is your work and the work of all of our nonprofit partners and community members and the business and the government community willing to take this risk because you are being disruptive.
I know.
You have that in you that you say, no, this is not enough, right?
Yeah.
You gotta change the way
Yeah.
we're doing business if we're really going to make a difference in the world and a difference in our community. So I just want to say thank you, Almaz, for being a change maker and for being part of changing lives for good, because that's what you really are doing. So thank you very much. One of the things that I see with the work that Step Up Silicon Valley is doing, thanks to your leadership and to the participation of all of our partners, is really creating a whole new mindset that yes, indeed, it is possible that we can end poverty in our community if we have the political will. We've got the means, we've got the resources, we have all of the ability, we have all the tech companies, we have all the nonprofits, and we've got a community that's passionately committed to this. So I really hope that through your leadership and through the work of this incredible network that we can truly change lives for good in this valley. Thanks, Almaz.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Change Lives for Good. I'm your host, Greg Kepferle, CEO of Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County. With us today has been Almaz Negash, Managing Director of Step Up Silicon Valley. They're working to change lives for good by innovating on how we absolutely can end poverty in this valley. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Change Lives for Good.